In June 1941, German anti-tank crews called their gun the Army's Door Knocker. It could open any obsolete Soviet tank. They were the undisputed masters of the Blitzkrieg. Then they met the Kliment Voroshilov, the KV-1, and suddenly the masters of war found themselves throwing stones at a fortress. Their laughter turned to terror. June 24th, 1941. A choking, pale dust cloud hangs over a dirt track just east of the Niemen River, Lithuania. It's 0900 hours. The air is already hot, smelling of diesel fumes, churned earth, and the faint, sweet, sour stench of pine resin from the shattered forests. For Gefreiter, or Lance Corporal, Hans Keller, crouched behind the steel shield of his 3.7-centimeter Panzerabwehrkanone 36, the world has been reduced to this narrow, sun-baked road. He and his three-man crew are sweating, their Feldgrau wool uniforms already dark with perspiration. They are part of Heeresgruppe Nord, and they are invincible. "Movement!" whispers his gunner, Erich, his eye pressed to the Zeiss optics. 2, 3, no, 5 targets, 2 kilometers. Hans feels a familiar, almost boring, rush. Not fear, impatience. He raises his binoculars. Through the haze they appear. Low, clumsy-looking shapes. Soviet tanks, T-26 seconds, Hans mutters, a smirk playing on his lips. He turns to his loader, Kurt, who is already holding a 3.7-centimeter Panzergranate 39, its sharp tungsten core designed to punch through steel. Kurt, looks like target practice. Kurt grins back. More tin cans for the Lieutenant's report, Gefreiter. The lead T-26 clatters forward, a boxy, riveted machine that looks like a relic from the Great War. Its short-barreled 45mm gun seems almost comical. This is the mighty Red Army? These are the tanks that held the Wehrmacht at bay in Spain? It's pathetic. A lieutenant from a forward infantry platoon, dug in 50 meters ahead, waves a red flag, the signal to engage. Target, lead tank, armor-piercing, fire when ready. Hans orders, his voice flat. Erich traverses the light gun, the metal scraping softly. He finds his aim. Target acquired. Fire. The Pak-36 cracks. It's not a boom, but a sharp, whip-like crack that kicks up a cloud of dust. The small shell zips across the gap, almost invisible. For a split second, nothing happens. Then, a bright flash appears on the T-26's turret. The 3.7 centimeters round, fired at over 760 meters per second, punches through the laughably thin 15mm armor plate as if it were plywood. There's a dull whump. The T-26's turret hatch blows open, and a plume of oily, black smoke follows a geyser of flame. The tank doesn't even slow down. It just slews sideways into a ditch, its tracks still churning uselessly. "Next target," Hans yells over the report. Kurt shoves another shell into the breach with a clack. Fire. Another crack. The second T-26, which had stopped in confusion, shudders as a round penetrates its hull. It, too, begins to burn. The other 3 tanks, their crews panicking, start firing wildly. Their 45mm shells bursting harmlessly in the trees 100 meters wide of the concealed German position. "They can't even see us." Erich laughs, already lining up his third shot. This is Operation Barbarossa. It's not a war, it's a rout. It's exactly what the Führer promised. The superior German soldier, with his superior training and superior equipment, is crushing the Slavic Untermenschen. Hans's gun, the Pak-36, is nicknamed the Heeresanklopfgerät, Army's Door Knocker. And it's knocking on every door, and every door is swinging wide open. A flight of Stukas screams overhead, their sirens wailing, diving on some unseen artillery position further down the road. A column of Panzer III's rumbles past Hans's position, their commanders, clad in black, waving from their cupolas. They don't even bother to stop. Why should they? The Panzerjäger, the tank hunter, shave it under control. In 2 days, Hans's crew has personally accounted for 9 Soviet tanks, 9 little red stars painted on their gun shield. All of them T-26 seconds, BT 5 seconds, or the absurd, multi-turreted T-28 seconds. The roads are littered with their burnt-out wrecks, surrounded by the bodies of Red Army soldiers who surrendered in such vast, pathetic droves that the German infantry can barely process them all. The arrogance is palpable. It's in the air they breathe. Every German soldier, from the generals in their command vehicles to the lancer marching on foot, feels it. This colossal enemy, this Bolshevik giant, is a hollow fraud. Their tanks are obsolete, their air force is destroyed on the ground, and their soldiers are poorly led animals. As the smoke clears and the surviving Soviet infantry scatters into the woods, Hans's crew emerges to clean the gun. "We'll be in Moscow by August," Kurt says, wiping cordite stains from the breach. "August?" Hans scoffs, lighting a cigarette. "The lieutenant said we'll be home for Christmas. This whole thing is a joke." He gestures with his chin at the burning T-26. "If this is the best they have, I almost feel sorry for them." He has no idea. He cannot possibly comprehend that just a few kilometers away, near a muddy river crossing, at a Lithuanian town called Raseiniai, the men of the 6th Panzer Division are about to encounter something else. Something that hasn't been in any intelligence report. Something that doesn't burn, doesn't stop, and doesn't seem to care about the army's door knocker. The laughter is about to die in their throats. June 25th, 1941. The Dubica River, near Raseiniai. Oberleutnant, or First Lieutenant, Fritz Stegmüller, commander of a platoon of Panzer 35 tanks, feels the same arrogance as Hans Keller. His 6th Panzer Division is the tip of the spear, and the last 72 hours have been a blur of shattered Soviet formations. His tank, a Czech-built machine armed with a 3.7-centimeter KWK-30 gun, is more than a match for the enemy's T-26 seconds. It's a tin can opener. His platoon of 5 tanks is advancing on a crucial crossroads east of the Dubica. The air is humid, the ground soft from a morning shower. General Major Raus, the battle group commander, wants this crossroads secured by noon. Stegmüller, standing in his open turret hatch, sweeps the horizon with his binoculars. "Column ahead!" His radio operator crackles. "Looks like a supply." The operator pauses. "Wait, Panzer, 1 Panzer, unbekanntes Modell, an unknown model." Stegmüller trains his glasses. There, straddling the crossroads, sits a tank. But it's wrong. It's not low and wide like a T-28. It's tall, immense. Its hull is flat, its turret brutally simple, and its gun is far longer than the stubby 76mm cannons on the T-28 seconds. It's painted in a dirty, almost careless olive drab. And it's not moving. "Is it derelict?" Stegmüller mutters to his gunner. "Rolf, no smoke, Herr Oberleutnant, but it's very big." A flicker of professional curiosity, not fear, guides Stegmüller. "Rolf, target the turret ring. See if we can wake them up. 800 meters. Panzergranate." Rolf lays the 3.7 centimeters gun. The crosshairs rest on the junction between the massive turret and the hull. Target. Fire. The small cannon barks. The tracer round spins across the green field and strikes the target with a bright yellow ping. Stegmüller watches through his binoculars. The shell has vanished. It didn't penetrate. It didn't ricochet. It seems to have simply splashed against the armor, leaving a tiny black smudge. The Soviet tank remains motionless. "What? Reload!" Stegmüller orders, confused. "Fire again. Same spot." The gun barked. Another ping. Another smudge. Again. The gun barked again. Another ping. Nothing. The turret doesn't even move. "It must be empty," Rolf says, his voice tight. "The crew has abandoned it." "Then why is the engine idling?" Stegmüller snaps. He can hear it now, a low, deep diesel thrum that vibrates in his chest, completely unlike the high-revving gasoline engines of his own panzers. And then, with a hydraulic whine that sounds like a steel gate opening, the enormous turret begins to turn. It moves with a slow, deliberate arrogance. It's not traversing to find them. It knows where they are. The long 76.2mm barrel lowers, pointing directly at Stegmüller's tank. Stegmüller screams, dropping into the turret and slamming the hatch. Reverse! Get us in the trees! Schnell! His driver throws the 35 into reverse, the gears grinding. But it's too late. You don't hear the shell that gets you. You just experience the result. For Stegmüller, the world becomes a single, blinding white flash, and a deafening metallic clang that feels like a giant has struck his tank with a 50-ton hammer. The 13-ton Panzer 35T is violently thrown backward. Stegmüller is slammed against the turret ring, his vision exploding in stars. Shrapnel, superheated fragments of his own tank's armor, zips through the crew compartment. His radio operator screams a wet, choked sound that is cut short. The air fills with acrid smoke, the smell of burning paint and something else, coppery. Blood. His tank is dead. The engine is silent. Through the periscope, he sees a fist-sized, glowing red hole where the 76.2mm shell entered the glacis plate, passed through the radio operator, and embedded itself in the engine block. Out! Everybody out! Stegmüller gasps, pulling the hatch. As he and his surviving crew tumble out, he sees the monster fire again. A boom that echoes across the valley. One of his other panzers, 200 meters to his left, explodes. It doesn't just burn, it disintegrates, the turret cartwheeling 30 feet into the air. This is not a tank. This is a fortress. Further down the line, Hans Keller's anti-tank unit has been rushed forward to support the panzers. They've heard reports of a heavy tank, but they're not worried. Their door knocker can handle anything. There, in the road, Hans's lieutenant points. Hans and his crew wheel their light Pak 36 into position. It's the same target Stegmüller faced. It's sitting at 500 meters, presenting its thick frontal armor. Fire. The 3.7 centimeters shell flies true. It hits the sloping armor and in a bright spark ricochets harmlessly into the sky. Again. Another crack, another ping, another crack, another ping, another crack, another ping. The crew fires desperately, their hands a blur, shoving shells into the breach. 10, 12, 15 rounds. All of them bounce. The tank's crew seems to be ignoring them, focusing its main gun on the more dangerous panzers. It's not working, Gefreiter. Kurt yells, his face pale with panic. The shells! They're not penetrating! Hans stares, his arrogance evaporating into cold, liquid terror. Keep firing. Aim for the tracks. Then, the monster turns its attention to them. A machine gun, mounted in the back of the turret, opens up. A thump, thump, thump. The 7.62mm rounds are not aimed at them, but at their gun. The bullets shatter the Pak 36's optics and whacked into the gun shield, sounding like hammer blows on an anvil. It sees us, Eric whispers, backing away from the ruined site. The tank's main gun traverses. It points right at them. There is no flash, just a concussion. The shell, a high explosive round, detonates 10 meters in front of their position. The world dissolves. Hans is thrown backward by a wall of hot air and steel. The blast shreds the Pak 36, twisting its door knocker barrel into a useless piece of scrap. Hans lies in the dirt, his ears ringing, watching the massive, unscathed tank at the crossroads. This is the Kliment Voroshilov, the KV-1. And for the 6th Panzer Division, it is the new god of this battlefield. For Gefreiter Hans Keller, the world returns as a high-pitched, steady whine. The sound of the Oberleutnant's whistle, he thinks. But the sound doesn't stop. It's the ringing in his ears. He spits out a clump of muddy grass, his mouth tasting of iron and cordite. His lieutenant is gone, not wounded, gone. A direct hit from a high-explosive shell leaves nothing behind but a red stain on the earth and scraps of wool. Erich, his gunner, is screaming, holding the bloody ruin of his left arm. Kurt is silent, his eyes wide and staring, a single piece of shrapnel through his throat. Hans is alone, and the monster is still there. It sits on the crossroads, 1,000 meters away, a black smudge against the green landscape. It's idling, its deep diesel, thrum, 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 a contemptuous heartbeat. It seems to be watching, waiting, The road is now a graveyard. The wrecks of Oberleutnant Stegmüller's panzers are burning fiercely, their ammunition cooking off in a series of sharp, popcorn-like cracks. The entire advance of Kampfgruppe Raus, the spearhead of the 6th Panzer Division, is grinding to a halt, all because of one tank. Major Egon von Stauffen, the Kampfgruppe commander, arrives at the front in his Horch command car, skidding to a stop in the ditch. He is a man who believes in schedules. The schedule says his men should be 20 kilometers past this river by now. Instead, they are cowering in ditches, terrified by a single, stationary target. Report. He barks at a Hauptmann, or captain, crouched behind a dead cow. It's impossible, Herr Major. The Hauptmann stammers, not meeting his eyes. The 3.7 centimeters guns, they are useless. Like throwing stones, Stegmüller's platoon is destroyed. Useless, von Stauffen scoffs. He is a veteran of the French campaign. He saw the Pak-36 break the French Char B-1S. They are not aiming correctly. It is cowardice. No, Major, the Hauptmann points. Look. As if on cue, another Pak-36, rushed forward from a different company, fires from a concealed position 600 meters away. A crack. The tracer streaks and pings off the KV-1's turret. The monster's turret, which was facing forward, swivels 90 degrees. It pauses, as if taking a moment to identify the new threat. Then the 76.2mm gun fires. A boom. The Pak-36 and its crew disappear in a cloud of dirt and black smoke. Von Stauffen stares, his jaw tight. This is not a tank. This is a bunker, a mobile pillbox. He turns to his adjutant. We have the new 5-centimeter guns, do we not? The Pak-38. Bring them. Bring all of them. And I want a battery of 105mm howitzers to fire on it. Direct fire, if you must. This thing will not stop this division. It's an escalation. The Pak-38 is the Wehrmacht's newest anti-tank gun, designed specifically to deal with the heavier armor they expected to find. Its long barrel and high-velocity tungsten core round are supposed to be the answer. An hour passes. The KV-1 has not moved. It simply sits. But its presence has created a 1.5-kilometer bubble of sheer terror. Nothing can move on the road. No truck, no infantry, no tank. To move is to die. 2 Pak-38 crews, the elite of the Panzerjäger battalion, crawl into a new flanking position in a ruined farmhouse 700 meters from the KV-1 side. They have a clear shot at its flatter, weaker side armor. Lieutenant Karl Deitmer, their commander, feels the pressure. He is confident. His gun can kill any tank. Target, hull, just below the turret ring, he orders. His gunner is precise. He takes a breath. Fire! The Pak-38's report is much deeper, a solid thump that echoes. The shell hits true. A bright flash on the KV-1's hull. A hit. The loader cheers. Did it penetrate? Deitmer peers through his binoculars. The smoke clears. There is a deep black gouge in the armor, but nothing else. The tank is unharmed. Again! Fire! A thump. Another hit. A ricochet. Thump. 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 They hit the tank 5 times in 30 seconds. And the tank, which had been ignoring them, begins to turn its turret. It's not working, Herr Leutnant. The gunner screams, panic rising. The shells! They're not penetrating! It's impossible, Deitmer whispers. It must be 80, maybe 100 millimeters thick. The KV-1's gun, now pointing directly at their farmhouse, flashes. Deitmer doesn't even hear the explosion that atomizes the farmhouse and his entire crew. Now, it is not just frustration. It is desperation. The 105mm howitzers have opened up. Shell after shell has rained down around the tank, churning the earth into a muddy hell. But they cannot get a direct hit. And anything else, the tank just shrugs off. Major von Stauffen is on the radio, his voice shaking with pure rage. It has defeated the 3.7 seconds. It has defeated the 5 centimeters. It has defeated the 105 seconds. This is a disgrace. Get me the Flak battalion. Get me an 88. I don't care if you have to pull it from airfield defense. Get me an 88 to this crossroads. Now! The call has gone out. The monster of Raseiniai has forced the Germans to deploy their ultimate trump card, the one gun that can kill anything. But the 88 is heavy. It is slow to deploy. And as night begins to fall, the KV-1 is still there, its engine thrumming, its machine guns spraying at any shadow that dares move in the ditches. 21:30 hours. June 25th, 1941. The crossroads is a haunted place. The sun has bled out of the sky, leaving a bruised purple twilight that will soon give way to the blackness of a Lithuanian summer night. The ringing in Gefreiter Hans Keller's ears has finally faded. It has been replaced by a sound that is, in its own way, far worse. Thrum, thrum, thrum. The low, guttural, unchanging idle of the KV-1's diesel engine. It is the only sound, besides the whimpering of the wounded and the distant crackle of the burning panzers. For 12 hours, that single engine note has held the 6th Panzer Division hostage. Hans lies in a waterlogged ditch, his rifly bolt-action Kar-98 clutched to his chest. He feels naked. His door knocker, his emblem of anti-tank superiority, is a pile of scrap 400 meters away. He is no longer a Panzerjäger. He is just infantry. And he is terrified. The entire advance has stopped. Kampfgruppe Raus is paralyzed. The crossroads is a kill zone, and the monster in its center is the gatekeeper. Reports are flying. The division command is in chaos. General Lieutenant Landgraf, the division commander, is apoplectic. This is not blitzkrieg. This is a farce. Then Hans hears a new sound from the German lines behind him. Not the high-revving whine of a panzer, but the heavy, grinding complaint of half-tracks. 2 large SD, KFZ. 7 prime movers are pulling something enormous, its long barrel pointed at the sky. It's the 88. Feldwebel, or Sergeant Oskar Richter, of the Luftwaffe's 2nd Flak Regiment, detests this. He is an anti-aircraft gunner. His job is to kill high-altitude Bolshevik bombers, not get into a knife fight with a ground-bound bunker. But the major who commandeered his gun, von Stauffen, was persuasive. Now, Richter and his 9-man crew are in the dark, 50 meters from the front line, unhitching their Acht Flak 18, quietly. Richter hisses, though he knows it's impossible. The 88 is not a stealth weapon. It weighs over 7,000 kilograms. Deploying it means dropping the heavy Sonderanhänger 201 carriage, unhooking the prime mover, and hammering the cruciform platform stabilization stakes into the earth. The sound of clanging, scraping metal, and a heavy thud. Every sound is a cannon shot in the dark. Hans, from his ditch, watches the Luftwaffe crew work. They are silhouettes against the last light. They are 1,100 meters from the KV-1. In the center of the road, the KV-1's engine note doesn't change. But Hans swears he sees the turret twitch, just a few degrees. It hears us. Someone moans beside Hans. Oh God, it hears us. On the platform, Richter orders his crew. Hand traverse, bearing 290. Target, shadow on the road. The gun layers spin their wheels. The massive, 8-foot-long barrel lowers, depressing to 0 degrees. It's an awkward, unnatural angle for a flak gun. Lader, Panzergranit 39. The loader, a young man named Max, heaves a 10-kilogram, 22-pound, shell. It is a beast. A pointed, tungsten-core artillery round, not a bullet. He shoves it into the massive sliding wedge breech with a clack. Gun is ready, Herr Feldwebel. Richter is on the radio to Major von Stauffen. We are in position. We fire on your command. The reply is immediate. Fire at will, Feldwebel. But do not miss. You may only get one shot. Richter understands. If he misses, the muzzle flasher, blinding, white-yellow gout of flame from the 88 will give away his exact position. The KV-1's 76.2 mm gun will reply. And at this range, an 88 is just as vulnerable as a PaK 36. Gunner, Richter says, his voice dry. Do you see it? I see the mass, Feldwebel. It's blocking the stars on the horizon. That is your target. Aim for the center. Aiming. Center mass. Richter takes a breath. He raises his hand. Feuer! The world erupts. The 8.8 centimeters flak gun detonates. It's not a crack or a thump. It's a physical concussion that slams into Hans Keller's chest, extinguishing the air in his lungs. A blinding flash illuminates the entire battlefield for 1 strobe-lit second, and the shell, traveling at 820 meters per second, smashes its way across the 1,100-meter gap. No one sees the shell. They only see the result. There is a different kind of flash at the target, not a yellow ping of a ricochet. This is a violent, blue-white crack of unimaginable force. It is the sound of a sledgehammer striking an anvil. The thrum, thrum, thrum of the KV-1's engine stops. A dead, profound silence falls over the crossroads. It is more terrifying than the engine. For 10 seconds, nothing moves. The German soldiers, Hans included, slowly raise their heads. The KV-1's turret, which was facing forward, is gone, not just penetrated. The 88's 10 kilograms shell, striking the turret ring, has decapitated the monster. The turret is lying on its back, 10 feet behind the chassis. A single, ghostly orange flame begins to lick up from the open hole in the hull. A Hauptmann stands up in his ditch, then another soldier, then Hans. A single, hesitant cheer starts, then it becomes a ragged, disbelieving roar. They did it. They killed the beast. Major von Stauffen, his hands shaking, clicks his radio. Cease fire. Pionier. Send in the pioneers with satchel charges. Make sure it's dead. It is 2,300 hours. The crossroads is lit by the flickering, greasy orange light from the KV-1's burning hull. The battle is over, but the war for this small patch of ground feels, somehow, just beginning. Gefreiter Hans Keller gets to his feet, his limbs heavy, his ears still muffled. His Kar 98K rifle feels like a child's toy. He watches as an Oberfeldwebel, or Sergeant First Class, from the Pionieria man with a scarred face and cold eyes named Dietrich walks cautiously toward the wreck. 2 other engineers follow him, carrying heavy satchel charges. Hans feels a morbid, magnetic pull. He has to see. He has to understand why. He stumbles out of the ditch, his rifle at his side, and falls in behind the engineers. The heat is intense, even 20 meters away. The air stinks of vaporized diesel, superheated steel, and the unmistakable, sweet, sickly smell of a crew burned alive. The KV-1's chassis is a smoking black hulk. The turret, a 7-ton block of solid steel, lies upside down in the mud, its long 76.2 millimeters gun barrel jammed into the earth like a fallen monument. Major von Stauffen is already there, his face pale in the firelight. He is staring at the hull. Dietrich, von Stauffen says, his voice quiet. Report. Dietrich doesn't answer immediately. He walks around the chassis, his flashlight beamer sharp, white cone in the smoky air playing over the armor. Hans follows him, his eyes wide. He sees them. The pockmarks. Dozens of them. This was mine, Hans whispers, touching a small star-shaped chip in the green paint. Dietrich shines his light on it. It's a 3.7 centimeters impact. The shell, Hans's Panzergranit 39, had struck the thickest part of the frontal armor and simply disintegrated. It hadn't even left a real dent. It just chipped the paint. Here, Dietrich says, his voice a low growl. He points his light at another cluster of marks on the turret ring where the PaK 36 crews had desperately aimed. And here, ping, 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 the sound of their total, pathetic failure. Bee stings, Dietrich mutters. You were shooting bee stings at a dragon. He moves his light to the side armor. Here, the impacts are different, deeper. The 5 centimeter, Dietrich says. He pulls a bayonet from his belt and sticks the tip into one of the gouges. The blade goes in, perhaps 15 millimeters. The PaK 38. It bit hard. But, Gott in Himmel. He lays his flashlight flat against the hull, shining the beam up at the armor plate. The steel plate is perfectly flat, brutally thick. Hans can now see what the intelligence reports had missed. The armor wasn't 30 millimeters or 40 millimeters. It looked to be 75 millimeters, 80 millimeters, maybe more. And it wasn't just flat, it was angled, sloped back, making it even more effective. "Look at this," Dietrich says, pointing to a spot where 5-pack 38 rounds had hit, all within a dinner plate's circumference, a testament to the German gunners' desperate, accurate fire. The armor was chewed up, but not broken. The tank had simply soaked it up. "How many?" Major von Stauffen asks. "I count 20, no, 33 impacts from the Pack 36. Dietrich reports, his voice clinical. "Another 12 from the Pack 38, 0 penetrations." He pauses, then shines his light on the 2 burning Panzer 35 wrecks. "And it killed 6, 7 of our panzers, and who knows how many guns." Hans feels a cold sickness in his stomach. His crew, Kurt, Erich, they had died for nothing. They were firing weapons that had no more chance of stopping this thing than a pistol. The laughter from 2 days ago, the tin cans, the target practice, it all seems like a cruel, insane joke. Dietrich walks to the rear of the tank, where the chassis is separated from the turret. He shines his light on the point of impact from the 88. It is not a neat hole. The 10-kilogram armor-piercing shell had struck the turret ring with such cataclysmic force that it had torn the 100 millimeters thick armor plate. The metal was ripped open, splayed outwards like a ruptured can. The sheer kinetic energy had lifted the entire 7-ton turret and thrown it clear. "This," Dietrich says, tapping the ravaged, glowing hot metal with his bayonet, "this is the only thing that worked, an anti-aircraft gun." Major von Stauffen nods, his face grim. He has seen enough. This isn't just a new tank, this is a new kind of war. All his training, all his equipment, all his assumptions, they are obsolete. They had rolled over seas of T-26 seconds, yes, but that was just the thin, crusty shell. This was the reality waiting underneath. The intelligence reports were wrong, von Stauffen says to no one in particular. Completely, utterly wrong. He turns to his adjutant. "Send the full report to division. Send it to Heeresgruppe. I want photographs. I want measurements. I want every general in this army to know that our anti-tank guns are Kinderspielzeug, children's toys. Tell them the army's door knocker can't even get past the welcome mat." Hans Keller stands in the shadow of the dead monster, the heat of its funeral pyre on his face. The victory at Raseiniai doesn't feel like a victory. It feels like a warning. July 14th, 1941. South of Lake Ilmen, Russia. The summer is high. The cornfields, a sea of green and yellow, rustling in a hot, oppressive wind. Gefreiter Hans Keller is no longer a Panzerjäger. His entire company was decimated and reformed. His new uniform is stained with dirt and sweat, his face gaunt. The arrogance of June is a distant, hollow memory, like a story from another man's life. He is now part of a Panzerzerstörer Truppe tank hunter team. His primary weapon is not a high-velocity cannon. It's a canvas satchel holding 3 steel hand grenade 24-stick grenades, their heads bundled together with wire. The Geballte Ladung, a glorified bundle of dynamite. The word has spread through Heeresgruppe Nord and Mitte. It's whispered in hushed, fearful tones at every halt. KV, Klim, monster. Betonkisteder, concrete box. "Movement! Left flank! A tank!" A young lancer screams, dropping his MG-34 and diving for his foxhole. The panic is immediate. It's a virus. Men who had charged machine guns a week ago now flatten themselves into the earth. KV. KV. It's a KV. Hans's Feldwebel, a grizzled veteran of Poland named Closer, raises his binoculars. His hand is rock steady. He studies the silhouette, just visible at the edge of the cornfield, 1,500 meters away. He lowers the glasses and spits. "It's a T-26. You idiot. A T-26. He kicks the panicked soldier. "Get back on that gun before I shoot you." But the fear is real. It's what the Russen are calling Panzerangst tank fright, and the Germans have caught it. Every dark shape in the woods, every distant engine sound, every plume of dust is a Kliment Voroshilov. The laughter is gone. The war has changed. The Pack 36, the door knocker, is now called the Panzerangklopfgerät tank knocker. And it's a joke. It's a bitter, gallows humor joke told by men who are now towed into battle behind half tracks, knowing their gun is useless against the one target that matters. The German command has scrambled. The autopsy at Raseiniai was a thunderclap. Every general saw the photos. They read the reports, and they realized their entire anti-tank doctrine was obsolete. The new orders are desperate. They are not the orders of a technologically superior army. They are the orders of a brawler who has just had his nose broken in the first round. You see a KV. Feldwebel Close lectures his new squad, holding up a Teller 42 anti-tank mine. You do not engage. You hide. You let it pass. You pray it does not see you. He holds up the bundled-up Geballte Ladung. The Zerstörer Trupp will then approach from the rear. You must be close enough to smell its diesel. You aim for the engine vents. You throw this, and you pray the concussion breaks the louvers and starts a fire. Or you run beside it, and you jam this mine. Here. He points to the diagram of the KV-1's running gear. Between the bogies, you pull the fuse, and you run. Hans stares at the crude drawing. Run beside it? These are the tactics of suicide. This is not the clean, surgical blitzkrieg he was promised. This is a desperate, muddy knife fight. If the Pioniere are here, Close continues, his voice flat, they will use the 3-kilogram charge. They will climb on the tank. They will place it on the engine deck. They will have 5 seconds. He looks at Hans. You were Panzerjäger. You have the new round, yes? He gestures to a small wooden crate. Inside, cushioned in straw, are a few rounds of steel granite 41. It's a bizarre weapon. A hollow charge warhead, like a small bomb, mounted on a finned stick that is fired from the useless Pak-36. It's slow. It's wildly inaccurate past 300 meters, but its chemical energy blast, if it hits, can burn through 180 millimeters of armor. It is a stopgap. A desperate Rube Goldberg contraption to turn a knocker into a killer. The real solution is already happening, but it's tearing the Wehrmacht's logistics apart. The 8.8 centimeters flak guns are being stripped from their Luftwaffe air defense duties and formed into ad hoc heavy anti-tank battalions. Everywhere the KVs appear, the panzer commanders scream into their radios for the one gun that works. Get me the 8.8. It has become the only answer. Hans Keller, sitting in his foxhole in the cornfield, checks the fuse on his bundled grenade. He is no longer a hunter. He is bait. He is the last line of defense, a desperate man with a stick of dynamite, waiting for a monster that his army's best guns cannot kill. And the monsters are coming. Not as single ghosts like at Raseiniai, but in brigades. At Lutsk, at Brody, and soon, on the drive to Leningrad, the KVs are appearing in dreadful, armoured waves, shrugging off the panicked fire of the German gunners, crushing panzers and men under their wide, unstoppable tracks. The victory is still happening. The Germans are still advancing, but it is now being paid for in terror, in blood, and in the cold, dawning realization that the subhuman enemy had, all along, possessed a weapon that was simply better. Winter, 1941. The snows have come. The war is not over. Moscow is not taken. The Wehrmacht is not home for Christmas. In a frozen trench outside Volokolamsk, a shivering Gefreiter Hans Keller, one of the few survivors of his original Panzerjäger company, huddles over a small fire. He is no longer afraid of the KV-1. He has a new, deeper fear, the cold, the limitless waves of T-34 seconds, and the dawning, soul-crushing certainty that this war will not be won. The laughter of June 1941 is a phantom, a story of a different, more arrogant world. The monster of Raseiniai, that one lone tank that held a Panzer Division at bay, was not an anomaly. It was a prophet. Its autopsy, the photos of those 3.7 centimeters shells splattered like paintballs against its 75 millimeters armor, had a convulsive effect on the German High Command. The shock wave from Raseiniai traveled all the way back to the design bureaus in Berlin and Essen. It was the KV-1 and its faster cousin, the T-34, that signed the death warrant for the Panzer III and IV as they were. The German soldiers' panicked screams for the 8-8 became official doctrine. The 8.8 centimeters Flak gun was ripped from the Luftwaffe and shoved into the Heer's hands, becoming the new, and often only, god of the anti-tank line. But you cannot build an entire strategy around a repurposed anti-aircraft gun. The KV-1 forced a technological arms race the Germans had never anticipated. The door knocker was thrown on the scrap heap, replaced by the lethal, long-barreled 7.5 centimeters Pak-40, a gun that owed its very existence to the terror of that first summer. The Panzer IV, which had been a perfectly adequate infantry support tank, was desperately upgunned with a new, long 7.5 centimeters cannon, creating the F2 and G models. Its sole purpose, to kill the concrete box and the T-34. And in the design halls, German engineers, now humbled, laid down the blueprints for their own monsters. The Tiger, the Panther. Colossal, over-engineered, and powerful, they were the Wehrmacht's direct, terrified answer to the machine that had laughed at their guns. The irony, lost on the German Lancer, was that the KV-1 was a monster to its own crews as well. While Hans Keller and his comrades were looking at it in terror, its driver, probably a young man from Omsk, was likely cursing it. Its transmission was a catastrophe, a crude piece of machinery so brutal that drivers often had to use a hammer to shift gears. Its clutch was prone to burning out. Its optics were appallingly bad, leaving the crew half blind. For every KV-1 killed by an 88, perhaps 3 more were simply abandoned by their crews, stuck in the mud or immobilized by a simple mechanical failure. It was a fortress, yes, but a deeply, fundamentally flawed one. But that didn't matter. It didn't matter to Oberleutnant Stegmüller, whose panzers were incinerated. It didn't matter to Gefreiter Kurt, who died for firing a useless weapon. And it didn't matter to the German High Command, which saw its entire theory of war shattered. The Kliment Voroshilov tank was a temporary, flawed weapon. But the idea of the KV-1, that was its true power. It was the physical, 45-ton embodiment of a single, catastrophic truth. The German soldier was not invincible. His technology was not superior. And the subhuman enemy he had come to enslave was capable of building a machine that, in 1941, was the single most powerful and terrifying armoured vehicle on Earth. The laughter had died at the crossroads at Raseiniai. It was replaced by the thump of the Pak-40, the roar of the Tiger, and the sounds of a long, terrible war of attrition that would, in the end, consume them all.